Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is the Men's World Championships 2021. This was an absolutely fantastic, epic, one of the best, greatest, one of the greatest one-day races you can watch on TV. You guys got to go back and watch it. The women's field yesterday was absolutely spectacular, the whole race from 100K to the finish. Today's going to eclipse the women's race. It was absolutely just a nail-biter all day long. When I woke up early this morning, I got up at 2:30 in the morning. The race had already started. We're probably 30 miles into the race. 268-kilometer race. And I'm waking up, and it's probably about 225 to go. I see they got a break of 8 riders, and then I back up the film so I can see if I missed something at the beginning so I can bring it to you fans that are watching the Butterfly Effect. Now, nothing really happened at the beginning. 8 guys got away, 10K into the stage, and then with 180 kilometers to go, we'll see Christophe Laporte, the French rider, and he gets a flat or has a mechanical, and I see him running from where he stopped his bike to his next bike. And it didn't dawn on me. I just thought, like, why is he running? That's not that big of a deal. The race isn't really on. It's not full gas. There's a group of 8 up the road. No big deal. Nobody's a threat up there. I don't even need to mention their names to you guys. They had about a 4-minute, maybe a 5-minute max time back there throughout that early part of the race. But then I'm watching Christophe Laporte running to get onto his other bike. He gets his other bike, takes off as fast as he can to try to get back up to the field. And then, bam! In the front, that's why he's running. The explosion is coming. Clearly, the French national team had something planned because at 178 kilometers to go, as soon as they hit the hill there, we'll see Benoit Cosnefroy have a little chat with Julian Alaphilippe, and then Benoit Cosnefroy lights it up, and he's going up the road. We start seeing how the race is going to be affected, and it's 178 kilometers to go, and the French team are on the march. On top of that, Remco Evenepoel is going up the road. He did not watch any of the Butterfly Effects or Beyond the Covers here with Chris Horner because he is just going against every tactic I talked about. Now, the commentators watching GCN, they're all highlighting about how fantastic this is with Remco Evenepoel covering the move. When you go back and you look at the field of chasers and it's the whole Italian team on the front, they're just talking about how Belgium is sitting pretty and it's the Italians on the front. And I'm here to tell you that is not what's going to happen in today's race because whoever the knucklehead director for the Belgium team that did the European Championships, it must be the same one or they got twins because Remco Evenepoel, not only did he cover the tack, but he is throwing in digs on the front and pulling that brake like crazy. Eventually, the Italian teams will get it closer, and then dangerous guys will jump across. That group of 3 will turn into a group of around 15 riders with Primoz Roglic and Asgreen in there. The Slovenian team is on the front because they got Jan Tratnik there too, and they're motivated, so they're pulling along with Tim de Klerk, the Belgian rider who went across with the guys bridging it. He's on the front. Remco Evenepoel, even with Tim de Klerk there, he's riding the front, but guess what? When you got a group of about 15 riders, what do I always tell you guys on the Butterfly Effect? There is no way they're going to gel together. And that's what's happening, right? The Italian team is still chasing behind because they got Sonny Cabrelli back there, and he's on fantastic form to my disbelief. I did not believe Sonny Cabrelli would be this fantastic on today's race. I thought for sure they'd be racing with one of the other Italian riders or just playing riders up the road at every chance they had. But instead, Sonny Cabrelli is their main leader for Team Italy, and that is clear at this point in the race. All of Team Italy is on the front trying to bring back the 15-man group up the front, and the announcers are just talking about how Belgium just have everything golden and wrapped up in their pocket. And that's what it looks like, right? When you're sitting on the couch and you're watching the whole Italian team on the front and you're seeing the Belgium team sitting back there all nice and pretty, you think they got it all wrapped up and it's golden, right? I'm here to tell you that's wrong. I'll give you one example. Back in the Tour de France when I was riding with Team Lotto, there was a break that went up the road. I was the only guy that could ride with Cadel Evans and get over all the big mountain climbs and get him to the final climb with at least one teammate. Early in one stage of the Tour de France, 50 guys went up the road. Cadel Evans was up there, but not with me because it was early in the race. One of my Belgium teammates came up to me and started arguing with me and said, "Why aren't you up there with Cadel Evans?" I turned around and looked at him. He's a big guy. I look up like this. Turned around, looked at him straight in the face. I said, "Hey, It's not my job to be there at the beginning of the race. It's my job to be there at the end of the race. Now remember that, because that's going to play a part in today's World Championships. And thank goodness the Belgium teams didn't listen to me. Otherwise, we might have just had a boring World Championships. Instead, we're getting the most fantastic, epic one-day bike race that I have seen. It is absolutely fantastic. Highlights up there with any one-day race I've ever seen. So you got to watch this race. Now, that breakaway will finally get brought back with 130 kilometers to go. I'm talking 50 kilometers after Remco Evenepoel had started that break with Benoit Cosnefroy, the French team rider. Now they're getting caught, and I'm telling you, Remco Evenepoel was on the front pulling like crazy for 50 kilometers in that break until they finally get caught. Now with 110 kilometers to go, again, the Belgium team's on the front. It didn't make much sense to me because they're blowing up the field. Everything's all together, and they're on the front with their full squad, and they're driving it hard. You can see the back of the field. It's blowing up all over, and my dark horse, Caleb Ewan, is coming out the back. There's no chance for a dark horse winning today's race because Caleb Ewan's getting dropped, and just about anyone that doesn't have spectacular form has no chance of finishing today's World Championships. Up front, with 90 kilometers to go, the next attack goes, and guess who's following it again? It's Remco Evenepoel. Oh, God bless your soul, Remco Evenepoel, because you're just lighting this whole race up. He's up there, he's following the French riders and all the other attacks and just putting on a show and driving it. Hey, and I want to be clear right here on the butterfly effect. I am not saying Remco Evenepoel in any way is selfish. I believe he's doing exactly what he was told to do, to go up the road and drive it and try to release some pressure on the Belgium teams behind. But that's not what it's doing. That's what it looks like, but that's not what it's doing. Instead, the pace has just been fast like crazy. Now Remco Evenepoel again is in the front group and driving it like crazy. With 65 kilometers to go, when they're going up the cobble climb, that brake starts blowing apart. And then Julian Alaphilippe is throwing in attack in the back, and it is devastating, blowing up the whole field. And we're only getting the favorites now going up the road over the climb with Julian Alaphilippe. They'll bridge up to the Remco Evenepoel group with about 50 kilometers to go and make that group about 15 to 20 riders strong, and I'm talking about all the favorites in there. The French riders have three: Julian Alaphilippe, Madouas, and the fast finisher, classic man, Sénéchal. They look fantastic. Italy have three guys up there. Sonny Colbrelli's up there. Baggioli's up there, and Giacomo Nizzolo is the third Italian rider. They're represented in a full force. Outside of them, the Belgium team still have three guys. Wout van Aert made it across, of course. Remco Evenepoel was already up there, and Jasper Stuyvens back there climbed up the climb and was even pulling on the front to close that gap to make it three Belgians in the front group. Netherlands riders, don't worry, they're looking fantastic. Dylan Van Barley and none other than Matthew Van der Poel's in the front. The solo riders up there representing Great Britain has Tom Pidcock. The kid is absolutely on form again. He's recovered from his Olympic gold medal mountain bike win and then followed by the Vuelta. Now he's back on form. Nielsen Palace, the American rider. Man, are you on form. You are absolutely flying. Before today's race, I had you maybe at a 3-star favorite. I should have put you higher after you won Classica San Sebastian. But who knew you had this kind of form? Because Nielsen Palace is just absolutely flying on the pedals today's World Championships. Valgren is up there for Denmark. So we got all of the favorites that we talked about the weeks leading up to the World Championships. It's looking fantastic. Only guys missing: Tadej Pogacar's not there, Primož Roglic's not there. My man Peter Sagan didn't make the split. I thought for sure he'd get back on with the group back there chasing when Portugal was pulling as hard as they can. But it wasn't going to be enough. Peter Sagan doesn't have the legs, and we're not going to see him as a fourth world world champion after today's race. When the next climb arrives with 49 kilometers to go, it's Julian Alaphilippe now putting on another show. This is his second big attack in today's World Championship, and he splits it to just with him and Sonny Colbrelli, who actually made the mistake to follow Julian Alaphilippe. Sonny Colbrelli, what are you doing, man? Who told you to follow Julian Alaphilippe? when you got all the riders behind to help work, when you have a teammate back there to help pull Giacomo Nizzolo, when you have Wout van Aert back there, when you have Remco Evenepoel back there, when you have even Jasper Stuyvens back there, you know you don't need to go with Julian Alaphilippe, but Sonny Colbrelli is trying to prove me wrong because I said he couldn't pull with a 5-star favorite, but he certainly can ride the wheel going up the climb with Julian Alaphilippe because Sonny Colbrelli's fantastic legs at today's World Championships. They'll get brought back shortly, though, and then Remco Evenepoel with 45 kilometers to go. He gets on the front, and he is just driving this break of favorites. Now, here's another thing. This is another knucklehead move from the Belgium team. I don't know who made this call, but all of a sudden, Remco Evenepoel is on the front again, and he's not just pulling. He's pulling hard. But when you look back, when you look at how big this group of favorites is, and you got to ask yourself, Remco Evenepoel, why are you pulling that hard? All you have to do, brother, is keep it together. You don't have to explode it. Guess what? It doesn't matter if the guys from the back in the original peloton back there, whatever's left, there's 20, 30 guys back there. If they get back, who cares? All you have to do is set a tempo and ride. Instead, he's blowing it up and pulling as hard as he can. He's doing a fabulous job. I mean, he extended the gap from what was left of the peloton that held him at about 20 seconds. Then they all blew up back there after Portugal came off the front. Remco Evenepoel stayed on the gas, though, extended it all the way out to about 2 minutes lead, and then blew up at 25 kilometers to go. Now, when he blows up, I'm sitting on the couch like you guys all know on the Chesterfield. GCN commentators are talking about how well job, how fantastic he did, how amazing Remco Evenepoel was on today's stage. It was a brilliant tactic. Oh my God, they're all knuckleheads over there too. And Adam Blythe, I work with Adam Blythe at NBC. Adam Blythe, you're a knucklehead. Brian, you're absolutely a knucklehead. Some of the statements you made on today's race were unbelievably wrong. And when you're sitting there talking about how fantastic of a ride Remco Evenepoel did when he's dropping off at 25 kilometers to go, you're absolutely knucklehead. And here's the reason, Brian, he's not there to work from 268 kilometers all the way to 25 kilometers to go. When you're the number one lieutenant to Wout van Aert, your job, your most important job at this World Championships is to look after Wout van Aert from 50 kilometers to go all the way to 0 kilometers to go, or I'll give you 200 meters to go if you want to be specific. But that is his job. Now, I know, like I said, I don't believe he was selfish. I believe that was the Belgium team, and I believe the director in the car is the biggest knucklehead of this whole race, because now all of a sudden Wout van Aert is left with only one teammate, Jasper Stuyvens. What happens? The Frenchies light it up. They're the first to attack, of course, because they got not one, not two, but 3 teammates in there. And one of them is Julian Alaphilippe. Then with 20 kilometers to go, Madouas, when they hit the climbs, got Julian Alaphilippe on his wheel, and he is drilling it 100% the way you're supposed to do it for a pure classic climber guy like Julian Alaphilippe. Laurent Madouas lights the candle. Julian Alaphilippe hits the afterburners and starts destroying what's left of the favorites in the front group. Guess what? Jasper Stuyvens, he takes off after Julian Alaphilippe, and Wout van Aert with 20 kilometers to go after the climb, all of a sudden he's isolated. This is not what I talked about on the butterfly effect of how to win the Belgium race. I talked about how Belgium might leave him isolated, but I did not say that's the plan. I said you got to get him to 200 meters to go. Instead, at 20 kilometers to go, he's isolated. Guess what? Jasper Stuyvens went up the road. Those groups will all come back together for one more hit because Julian Alaphilippe gets caught, and then he lights it up again on the next climb with about 17 kilometers to go, and he's drilling it. Guess what happens, though? Jasper Stuyvens jumps across with a group of 3. Now there's 4 chasing Julian Alaphilippe. It's Paulus up there, the American rider who's on amazing form. Valgren, we saw him win the Italian semi-classics before the World Championships. He's flying. Dylan Van Barle's doing an amazing job because Mathieu van der Poel just did not have the form at today's World Championships. And then Jasper Stuyvens is up there pulling with those 3. Now, with Jasper Stuyvens, when you're up there, guess what's happening to Wout van Aert, guys? Everybody watching the butterfly effect, you all know, because I talk about it all the time, all of the number 1 Domestique, Remco Evenepoel's number 2 Domestique, the only guy left, Jasper Stevens, went up the road. Now, who's with Wout? Nobody's with Wout, bro. Wout van Aert, the greatest one-day racer, classic guy, climber, time trialist, winner of stages at the Tour de France, mountain stages, time trials, you name it, he can do it. He's isolated and left on his own. Do you think the guys back there are going to work with Wout van Aert? Nope, they don't. So all the gaps start extended. Julian Alaphilippe coming under the finish line banner with 1 lap to go, about 15 Ks, just up the road with about 7 seconds with the 4 guys chasing. And it's the American, Neilson Powless, who's putting on a show trying to pull back Julian Alaphilippe. The 3 behind will catch Neilson Powless, and there's 4 chasing Julian Alaphilippe. Now, this is one thing about Jasper Stevens. If Jasper Stevens is going to be in that group of 3 chasing Julian Alaphilippe and leaving Wout van Aert isolated. Yep, isolated. Wout van Aert's back there isolated. Jasper Stevens, you have to, absolutely 100%, no doubt about it, you have to close that gap to Julian Alaphilippe immediately. Or, I'm going to come back to that. Let's go back to the story. Julian Alaphilippe's absolutely flying up the road, but he can't get more than 10, 15 seconds on the group of 4, and he's got about a 25, 30 second on the group of Wout van Aert and the 2 Italians, Giacomo Nizzolo and Sonny Colbrelli back there. Problem is, Nizzolo's running out of form and his legs are dying. He's put on a spectacular show, but he is done and the tank is empty. Now Sonny Colbrelli back there is going to attack, going up the climb. One last big effort to try to bring back the front riders, trying to win this World Championships. He won't be able to bridge, and that'll be it for Wout van Aert's chances of winning the World Championships. Julian Alaphilippe is going up the climb with about 10 kilometers to go. The crowd's actually booing Julian Alaphilippe. Guys, why are you booing Julian Alaphilippe? He rides for a Belgium team. Clearly, if you can't get a Belgium director that isn't a knucklehead that can't win the World Championships with Wout van Aert, you might as well cheer for Julian Alaphilippe, because that boy's putting on a show and he is flying up the road. 6 kilometers to go. Julian Alaphilippe is flying. He's extended his gap. Finally, the group of 4 chasing behind is blown up, and the gap is extended out to 30 seconds. And now we know Julian Alaphilippe is going to be a back-to-back world champion at the 100th edition of this year's World Championships. He'll fly across the line, start celebrating in spectacular style that we all have become accustomed to with Julian Alaphilippe. The group of 4 behind coming to the finish is led out by Powless, but he doesn't have the legs and starts to blow. Jasper Stevens will start his sprint with about 125 meters to go. He'll pass Powless, no problem, but Valgreen's running up on his right side, and on the right of Valgreen is the Netherlands rider, Dylan van Baarle, who is just shining at today's World Championships. Dylan van Baarle gets second on today's race. Valgren will get 3rd at today's race, and Jasper Stevens will cross the line for 4th. No medal for the Belgium teams. Now, I want to rewind the tape just a little bit. I said I was coming back, and I want to go back to 14.4 kilometers with Jasper Stevens, when he could not close that gap immediately to the flying Julian Alaphilippe. Now, Jasper Stevens, you said after the race in the press conference that you were put in a situation to be able to ride for a medal. Jasper Stevens, I'm here to tell you, you weren't put in that situation. You put yourself in that situation. At 14.4 kilometers to go, bro, if you stopped pedaling, if you dropped out of that group and went back to your isolated teammate, the best one-day racer in the world, Wout van Aert, if you went back to him, and then you started working with Giacomo Nizzolo from Italy, and Wout van Aert starts riding, and Sonny Colbrelli starts riding. Right at that moment, you had a chance still to catch Julian Alaphilippe, but you decided to leave Wout van Aert isolated, work with the riders up front, and at 14.4 kilometers to go, when you're looking over at Powless and he says, I can't pull, and you know you can't bridge across, and you're not going to do the pull yourself, and one other guy's tired, and you're not going to make it at that point in time, right when Powless said, I can't pull, you needed to drop back, get Wout van Aert, and then start drilling it as hard as you can. So you put yourself in that situation for Belgium to not get a medal. The only room I'm going to give you on today's race is that your knucklehead Belgium DS back there in the car who planned these tactics to send one of the strongest riders in the world, Remco Evenepoel, up the road. Man, Remco Evenepoel, when it comes to the commentators and they said he was spectacular, he was spectacular. I mean, that kid, he rode about 100 kilometers on the front at the World Championships and just blew this race apart. Remco Evenepoel's legs were absolutely amazing and he was on form. So are you guys telling me that if they had saved Remco Evenepoel and sent somebody else up in those first knucklehead moves with 178 kilometers to go, that Wout van Aert wouldn't have had Remco Evenepoel all the way from 20 or 50 kilometers or 20 kilometers to go and drop them off at 200 meters to go and just give them a chance at winning the sprint. I gotta believe Wout van Aert had a good shot at winning today's World Championships, but the Belgium team just messed up the tactics. It was a fabulous race though, epic. Thank you for messing up the tactics. It was beautiful. I loved every moment of it. You guys got to go back and watch it. It is up there with one of the best one-day races that you could ever watch. Epic is the only word that comes to my mind. Congratulations to Julian Alaphilippe, who won today's World Championship back-to-back style. Dylan van Baarle for getting the silver for the Netherlands. A fantastic ride. Denmark's Valgren's bronze on today's race. Fourth place on the stage. Stuvens, you guys just messed up all over the place. I'm not going to congratulate you. Nielsen Palace for getting fifth on the stage and being the first American to break the top 10 in a long time, because I was the last one to do it. So it was a long time ago, brother. Great job. You are a 5-star favorite on today's race. You looked fantastic out there. Next weekend is the women's Paris-Roubaix race on Saturday, followed by Sunday's men's race. Let's hope next weekend is somewhat close to this weekend's racing, because it can't get much better than this weekend. That's for certain. I haven't seen it. It was fantastic. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to Butterfly Effect, and I'll see you guys real soon.